Guido looked, or I'm sorry, Guido and Torrez. Guido, Vianello,
Vianello.
and Richard Torrez Jr. Such a good kid, such a good guy, and can box his butt off as well. I'll let you take over. Go ahead.
Well, that's another way he reminds me of you. He's a good dude.
Hmm.
But yeah, so yeah, right away I said this on my channel too that he reminds me of Shawn Porter. You.
Hmm.
Now not as now not yeah you yeah not as athletic pound for pound like people would say, well, of course he's not as quick and as agile. He's a heavyweight, Sean's a welterweight, but I'm saying even taking that into consideration, like it's not quite the athlete you were, and doesn't quite have the busy jab that you were able to have fighting taller fighters. So just not as quick and as athletic with his movements. But he does have some power. I think he hits harder than you did, Sean, pound for pound. So he makes up for that a little bit with some power. But he reminds me of you because he's a pit bull. He's an overachiever, and there's a subtlety to his craft that's overlooked because he tends to get in your chest and hit you at a distance most fighters can't be effective at. They're smothering their shots a little too much to be effective. You and Richard could maul a guy and really get some good shots off in the clinch that are real scoring blows. But he walked Vianello into a right hook in midway through the fight. He wasn't even throwing right hooks the first 3 or 4 rounds. Midway through, he hits him with he's starting. Not only is he hitting him with the right hook, Sean, he's walking him into the right hook. So
Hmm. Hmm.
for you to be a fighter that's a half foot shorter than your opponent, but you got him giving up his range and walking into your right hook, that means there's definitely a method to your madness, and there's some skill and some subtleties there that might not be easy to grasp, but they're there.
Yeah.
So I love that he's studying Usyk a lot. He's doing a lot of the feint out of being a shorter southpaw like Usyk does to these big boys at heavyweight. He's not as precise and as quick as Usyk, but he's only 13 fights in now, and he could if he keeps building if he could out cardio these guys and just be a constant ball of motion, constantly feinting, constantly shifting his positioning, constantly in your chest, constant. He could surprise people in the heavyweight division. What do you think,
Hmm.
Sean?
No, there's so many things I could be grateful for my dad for, and grateful to my dad for, and there's so many things that my dad has taught me in my lifetime as a fighter. I'm super, super grateful that my dad understood that my pace and my conditioning, and along with my body structure and the intangibles that I had as an athlete, he understood how to exploit it and use it. And I tell people all the time, what I love most about what my dad and I were able to do, we were able to be effective, but also be safe. My style kept me just as safe as it did me being effective against my opponents. Um, Conditioning is the number one thing for Richard Torrez. As a smaller fighter, you got twice as much work to do as anybody else because you got work to do on the outside and you got work to do on the inside. You got work to do on the outside to get to the inside. And the thing I want to remind everybody out there is just because you're a smaller fighter doesn't mean everything you do has to be in here. It doesn't. Everything that you do doesn't have to be in here. But when you're out here, you got to have a better effective jab. You got to have better effective movement. You got to have better effective feigning and things like that. And you got to always be moving because the hardest target obviously is one that's moving. So I think that I saw a lot of what I would do. I saw a lot of me, like in the amateurs when I fought guys who were towering over. That's what I was seeing when I was watching the highlights of Richard Torrez. I was seeing me against guys that were 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", and those guys were like doing the best they could to grab me on my way in and things like that. Rich is going to have a hard time, but the more well-conditioned he is, the easier it's going to be. I agree. He needs a better effective jab from the outside. He's got to find that. And I think he needs better head movement from the outside as well. He needs better head movement on his way in as well. I felt like Guido hit him with shots that I didn't expect him to get hit with. I thought he was sharper from the outside from a standpoint of being able slip and block and make you miss. I thought that maybe it was just Guido having good timing on him on fight night, but there were times where he was coming in and he was getting hit with some shots on the way in that I didn't expect. But because of his tenacity, because of his mindset, because of his condition, those punches didn't matter. I'm excited for him. I really want to believe that Jared Anderson is the next heavyweight world champion from America, but it could very well be Richard Torrez.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even tell the fans watching, like, this is the guy. This is the next heavyweight champion. But what I can assure you of, he's going to give everything he's got and then some to try to get there. Yeah. And I'm all for watching him pursue that, even if it falls short.
Yeah.
This is a guy you could get behind because he's a real one. He's a great guy. He's all heart. And he's the kind of guy you're going to have to put him out. You're going to have to put him out flat on his back, or he's not going to stop coming until you do so. Mm-hmm. So he's a guy I can get behind and enjoy. Yeah. Is that lunging in, like you mentioned, kind of without real sharp head movement? Can that be taken advantage of like Jalalov did back in the amateurs? Absolutely. But I think he does his tape study. I think we were talking about accountability earlier. I think he's accountable. First thing he told me after the fight was, I got to settle down. Down. I went for the kill too early. Early on when he was touching and poking and prodding and just, Guido was already getting exhausted early in the fight mentally from all the feigning and all the pressure. And so he's trying, because Torrez has power once he can really torque his punches. Yeah. If he has to reach you from far out, he's not going to hurt you too bad. But if you let him sit down on something, he has power in the heavyweight division, but he tried to crank it up a little too soon. There's a lot to work on, but he's going to leave no stone unturned to try to make it happen.
Listen, I believe in this kid. Like I said before, man, I still believe in Jared Anderson, but I just I have to see it with my own two eyes for me to believe it. I'm a 100% Richard Torrez Jr. fan and supporter. The kid is going to become lights out because he's going to keep improving. He, like you said, he holds himself accountable.